Well, hi there. This is Nick Reeves, and I want you to come on a journey with me to the Maine of Stephen King. Well, I hope you've packed your backpack and brought your wooden stakes because it's time to go on a journey of the Maine of Stephen King. Now, we won't be touching on some of the other areas that Stephen King has mentioned, along with the multiverse that is part of Stephen King's, of the Dark Tower, or all of the strange and wondrous creatures that come in. We're going to be focusing today on Maine. Now, our first stop, if you're going to come to the Stephen King universe, is Castle Rock. You must stop by and enjoy your time at Castle Rock. Now, I want you to come and see the beautiful train tracks where a young group of boys went on a fine adventure. There was a story of a murder there, and you can come out and enjoy the nature just outside of Castle Rock. If you do see a body, make sure and report it to the police. I'm sure they'll get right on it, along with the many other corpses that mysteriously tend to pop up in these towns. Now, don't forget to stop by Wilson Street. That's where a presidential hopeful by the name of Greg Stillson can be seen. Now, this gentleman was poised to become the next president of the United States. However, after an assassination attempt, his reputation was ruined and he no longer moved forward. And it's good to see this and be involved in local politics and see what's going on in the world. And if you do see his neighbor, make sure you walk up and shake his hand. He just might have something to tell you about your future. Now, while you're in Maine, make sure and head by the local adoption center at Castle Rock and adopt one of their adorable St. Bernard puppies that are up and available for adoption. But make sure they're vaccinated. Now, while you're getting that adorable dog, you can stop by and see the house of famous writer George Stark, who did a great series of writings, and some people said his writings were so interesting it seemed almost as if two different people were writing them. Isn't that fun? But finally, I want you to get a feel for these small towns. If you really want to do that, what you need to do is stop by the small antique shop called Needful Things. Rumor is that you can find exactly what you're looking for at this store. They have all sorts of odd assortments and ends, and they say the price is very reasonable. So let's move on. As we're moving out of Castle Rock, you can stop by and see some of the fun little areas. There's Ludlow, Maine that you can come by where you can see the delightful pet cemetery, a wonderfully spelled little place where you can bury your pets if that St. Bernard perhaps doesn't make it. And no need to go further in the woods. There's nothing to see there. You can also stop by Chamberlain, Maine, where it has a wonderful high school you can visit after it has been rebuilt from a very slight fire that it had in the 70s. Moving right along, I want to come to one of my favorite places in Maine, Jerusalem's Lot. This is a fun little town with a really energetic nightlife. Many of these small towns are famous for being sleepy and not much going on at night. But I assure you, if you go to Jerusalem's Lot, you'll find that the people there are out and about at night. But remember, at the beginning of this video, I said to make sure and bring your stake. You may have a Nosferatu or two that you have to deal with. So if you do see one, remember the heart is located here. Make sure to pierce it completely, and you'll probably want that heavy mallet to help drive it through. So if you do go at night, be prepared and watch your neck, because they're hungry and ready for a little snack. And by the way, that snack is you. But I don't want you to feel left out, because I want to spend the rest of the video talking about my favorite place in Maine to visit, and that, of course, is Derry, Maine. Come along with me and we will see Derry, Maine. It has a long and valued history all the way back to the beginning of this fine country. Now, it was known for traveling bands coming through, and you could even see some fanciful folk such as the legendary Pinion the Clown. His wonderful antics and his dancing were a wonder to behold. So you want to make sure and see if you can find any scraps in the library about this mythical creature, who is certainly dead and long since gone, and cannot be found in any of the canals. Now, speaking of the canals, one of the wondrous things about Derry is, despite its relatively small size, it has an extensive sewer system. Now you're saying to yourself, Nick, why would I want to check out sewers in a small town? Well, it's because you can actually climb down in them and walk about. And when you think about sewers, they are a little smelly, and yes, they are a little dank, and yes, they may have certain personifications of your id or nightmares that come to life and try to kill you. But most of the time, they will first try to terrify you before killing you, and so you should be able to get out safely before that Frankenstein's monster comes and tears your head clean off. Now, if you do see a killer clown, it's very, very simple. All you have to do is make sure that you are not afraid of it. Sure, it's a clown, and therefore by definition it's terrifying, and sure, occasionally its mouth will turn into a monstrous row of razor-sharp teeth that are bent upon your destruction, but hey, free balloons! So that's something to get excited about. So if you do see that clown, just don't be afraid of it, and feel free to give it a few clean whacks with a baseball bat. Just keep in mind that 20 to 30 years later, you may need to come back with a group of your scrappy friends while you're in your 40s and have to destroy him. So make sure you keep in touch with them on Facebook. Finally, I want you to know that it's very important when you're in town to make sure and sample the water. Some people say that the water has been contaminated by a sort of spore or fungus from alien creatures from another land. Now, this may seem like a bad thing, but one of the side effects is that you gain psychic powers, which is fun. The only downside is that an alien present will subsume your mind and destroy it from within, and you as a person will cease to exist. But hey, psychic powers, that's sure fun. So I hope you've enjoyed this trip of the overall land of Maine of Stephen King. But I do want to give you one final little bonus content, and that is keep an eye out for the Dark Tower. While you're here, you may find that reality itself rips open and a gunslinger will come through. This gunslinger will be carrying at least one 6-shooter and has incredible aim, and will have a series of companions with him. If you do see him, know that death and destruction will almost certainly come in his wake, so make sure and wear a jacket. If you do see him as well, he may take you with him on your quest. The great news is you may learn how to use a gun, and you may become a fabled gunslinger. The bad news is you will likely meet a terrible, gruesome, and painful death. So, kind of a 50-50 sort of scenario. But keep a lookout for that man in the duster with the low brim hat. He is ready for adventure, and so will you be. So I hope you have enjoyed this wonderful little trip through the Maine of Stephen King. Remember, bring your stake, don't have any fear, and maybe start working on your pistol work, because you just might go on an epic book-spanning quest. I've been Nick Reeves. If you have a suggestion for another fictional place that I can take you to, make sure and leave it in the comments. Or you can subscribe to Roleplay Riot on here. Or you can watch another one of my videos right here. I've got so many that I'd love to share with you. Take care, and remember, don't be afraid.